Charlie Kirk is dead, and it exposed something vile and horrifying that I want to share with you right now, just kind of candidly. He was murdered while he's speaking in public to a group of college kids. And there's one part of this that I think should horrify you to the deepest parts of your very soul. Instead of a universal outrage, instead of every decent person saying this is insane and this is wrong, the internet seemingly lit up with these celebrations and cheers and memes and people actually laughing and celebrating the murder of a man because he wore a different political jersey. So let that sink in for a second, and I don't think any of this is about Charlie Kirk, the person, and I don't think it's about whether you liked him or hated him or didn't even care. I think it's about the fact that political murder is somehow just another headline nowadays, and we scroll right past it. There is a whole new low for where we could go, and you have people online cheering like it's their team winning a Super Bowl. And what you're seeing is an evil, evil mask slipping. This is a signal, and it's a signal that we, and I do mean we all, crossed into something that is a lot darker than just politics. This right here, what we're seeing, is what happens when violence becomes part of a political conversation. When actual TV networks air over and over clips that encourage people to see the other side, not as neighbors that we might disagree with, but as enemies that need to be destroyed, as the threat to society. And you've seen it, I have no doubt. We all have seen this. People in the media saying these people are a threat. These people are dangerous. Maybe some violence is justified, and it's not fringe anymore. This is mainstream, and there are thousands of these clips out there aired to millions of people, kind of nudging, suggesting, maybe planting seeds that maybe a fist, maybe a bullet, is a legitimate form of political debate.
You resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck.
Biggest terror threat in this country.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
A lot of people don't have the attention span to maybe stick with this, but I pray that you do, because I'm going to expose something here that's going to change everything for you if you stick around. But here's the irony, and what I think is an absolute concrete law of history. It's concrete law. The minute that your ideas require violence to enforce or spread, they are already completely bankrupt. Every tyrant, every failed ideology, every social collapse starts the exact same way. The debate dies. Then violence takes the place of debate, and you can't argue with a gun, you can only kill with it. And when killing is the substitute for a conversation, society as a whole starts falling off a cliff. And we all, myself included, we all have been sold the biggest con of our entire life. And this is that the problem is left versus right, or Republicans versus Democrats, and that is the distraction fireworks show that they want us screaming about while they're doing something else. And this is a magician's trick, and I'm about to really show you what Charlie, God rest his soul, has kind of exposed here. If you turned on cable news today, you go in your living room, turn it on, maybe you scroll social media, what are you going to see? The absolute fringe. They're going to show you the loudest, dumbest, most cartoonish people from the other side blasted in your face 24/7. You're not being shown your neighbor or your coworker or the mom next door who votes differently. You're being shown a bunch of professional lunatics that are hand-picked to make you think one thing. And the one big thing that they want you to think is, oh my God, these people are insane. They are the enemy. That's the reason that we're going downhill, and none of this is an accident. This is word for word textbook. Psychological operations and military Psyops manuals literally describe how you isolate a target audience. Then you pump them full of a bunch of outrage. You create a tribal us versus them identity. This is straight out of a Psyops textbook. So why would we want to do this? Or why would Psyops want to do this? Because once you're locked into tribal thinking, you're going to swallow anything. You're going to believe any lie about the other side. You're going to cheer when other people suffer. You'll excuse things that you would never excuse in your own neighborhood if you watched it right in front of you and it was one of your neighbors. This is exactly the playbook on how you get otherwise decent, kind people laughing at a murder on the internet. That is how you radicalize a country without firing a shot. And let me tell you something that you're not supposed to think about right now. You share more in common. You share more with somebody across the aisle than with a billionaire donor or some media executive pretending to speak for you. I don't think they want you to see that. They need you divided. They have to have you blind and full of rage because a united, sane, connected public is the one thing that they actually fear. So how does a normal person, just a regular person, a guy who loves his kids, pays his bills, maybe argues politics at Thanksgiving, how does he turn into somebody who cheers at the assassination of a political opponent on the internet? This does not happen overnight. It is a formula, and I'm going to lay it out for you very plain right here. Number one is isolation, and this is where you don't just disagree with people anymore. You're told not even to interact with them. You don't have friends on the other side? Don't date them. Don't work with those people. You need to cut them out of your life. That is step one. And if you're paying attention, that's also step one of joining a cult. So step two is echo chambers. You surround yourself only with opinions that sound just like yours. Social media makes damn sure of this, and algorithms serve you more of what already pisses you off. And this has been proven and documented in research. So that rage gets recycled and concentrated like moonshine. Like a moonshine still. And if you haven't caught on yet, this is step two of building a cult, a dangerous cult. So step three here is the tribal script. This is the US versus them narrative. Your side is righteous, their side is evil. Every single issue is framed like a holy war, and it doesn't matter if it's taxes or healthcare. It's suddenly life or death, and it's good versus evil. And if you add outrage and righteous superiority, and our brain chemistry starts going bonkers crazy, that cocktail makes people feel morally justified in hating and silencing and celebrating violence. That is true radicalization. That's how you turn regular people into basically a sleeper agent without them even knowing. The bad news is that what I just said is only the beginning, and it's happening on both sides of the imaginary aisle. Here's the truly horrifying part. All of this, it's not just a result of some advertising and algorithms. This is deliberate, and I would stake my reputation on it. This is not just some accidental byproduct of politics. This, what we're seeing right here, is engineered step by step to keep you outraged and blind and keep you just kind of stabbing and punching in shadows. All the while, this real power, the people who profit from division, stay completely untouchable. So keep this in mind while we're talking. You have more in common with someone who voted different than you did than the people that you see parading their narratives on TV. Please keep that in mind forever, if you're able to. An absolutely brutal truth that nobody really wants to face. Assassinations, especially like we saw with Charlie Kirk, assassinations are not usually about stopping some kind of evil. They're about stopping ideas. You don't kill somebody because their argument was weak. You silence them because you were terrified that their words are working on people. Think about Martin Luther King Jr. He wasn't murdered because he was irrelevant and he had bad ideas. He was killed because his vision of racial and economic unity and equality was gaining traction in the country. If you look at President Kennedy, JFK, he wasn't taken out because he had no power or had crappy ideas. He was killed right as he started poking holes in this weird, dark system's grip on our war and defense and secrecy. Mr. Rabin, this guy Rabin, I think assassinated in Israel. Nobody did it because he was a joker, because he was a laughingstock. He was killed because he was pushing in Israel for peace, and peace threatened power. Peace threatened power. History is unbelievably clear on this. If debate dies, when open conversation gets replaced with suppression or intimidation and ultimately violence, society walks into a death trap. There is not an exception to this. So the ideas that require censorship or intimidation or blood to survive, they are 100% of the time poison. An idea that can't survive in the sunlight has to live in the shadows, and that is the death spiral that we are in if we don't stop this shit right now. So let's look at the other hand in this magic trick. Remember we talked about there's some misdirection going on here. For decades, the press, the media, was supposed to be our watchdog, and they're going to find all the facts. They're going to hold the powerful accountable. They're going to keep people informed. And again, you can see this with your own eyes. It's not right versus left. Look closely at the media. It's not right versus left. This is darkness versus light. The media is a circus tent with a lot more in common to a casino. This is a propaganda machine just churning out outrage. Let me just tell you exactly how this works. Facts are boring to people. Outrage is more likely to sell. It's more likely to keep you looking at the screen. That's their metrics. That's what they get paid based off of. So instead of showing you some kind of reality, they're showing you this carefully curated nightmare reel. of the absolute worst of the other side. They're not giving you the whole picture. They're giving you the most extreme clips that they can find because they know that you're going to watch. They know that you're going to get pissed off when you see it all, and you're going to come back for more tomorrow. In fact, to me, if I'm very honest, if something doesn't fit their narrative, it is completely ignored. But if a story can be kind of twisted into a blame game, then it is. So they're not showing you reality in any sense. They're showing you a story designed to keep you loyal to your tribe, addicted to whatever their twisted horror movie version of reality really is. And what's truly disgusting, what I am genuinely nauseated by, we tend to think, oh yeah, the media is trying to sell ads for some pharmaceutical stuff. They're trying to sell some car commercial breaks and things like that. That's not it. This is more about distraction. The reason is, while they get you frothing at the mouth over some clip of a protester screaming nonsense, the real enemy to all of us, these entrenched people that you have nothing in common with whatsoever, who decide the narratives, they bankroll politicians, and they write the rules. And you know that they win, no matter who wins, right or left. You know that they're the ones getting the checks. They're laughing at how stupid we are. So let's stop with the doom and gloom for a second here. And let me just kind of bring this back. If you strip away all of the slogans, all the hashtags, the little talking points of the media, what do regular people want? What do regular people, you and your neighbors, even the people that voted differently than you, we want our kids safe. We want a roof that doesn't leak. We want food in the fridge. We want a job that doesn't crush our frickin' soul. And we want some goddamn honesty from the people who claim to represent you, to represent us. And guess what? That guy that you don't like with the bumper sticker down the street, he wants the same thing. The woman with the MAGA hat at the grocery store that you thought was an idiot, she wants the same thing. The mom who is too busy working 3 jobs to even care about politics, she wants the same thing too. But what do they not show you on TV? What is the one thing? It's that. It's that you have that much in common with the people who voted different than you. They will never, never show you that. They show you the screaming protester with the purple hair, threatening to burn a bunch of stuff down. They show you this red-faced conspiracy guy spitting at the camera, talking about crazy stuff. They show you the absolute fringe because fringe pisses you off. Fringe makes you hateful and angry. Fringe makes you think that the other half of the country has lost its freaking mind. There are absolute real studies on this. There's hard data proving that these algorithms in the media deliberately push exactly what's going to piss you off. Because the more enraged you are, the longer you're going to stay hooked. And they're literally feeding you a diet of enemies instead of neighbors. They're programming you to see the world through some kind of warped carnival funhouse mirror, where these loudest, weird-ass 1% of extremists look like 160 million people. And it's not. It is a lie. It is a lie. And if that's a lie, then let me say one thing that's true. And let me give you the truth here. You and that weird uncle that you argue with at Thanksgiving, you're not enemies. You're both being played. You're both being manipulated. And the second that you realize that, the second that you look across the aisle and see a fellow human being, instead of some caricature cartoon, is the moment that the scam starts to collapse. And I think I know what you might be thinking here. So if it's not left versus right, then who the hell is pulling all these strings? Who benefits? So let me ask you, who benefits from you hating your neighbor? Because let's be honest, regular people don't profit from this chaos. Regular people don't. But someone does. And that someone is what I personally call the covert elite. Because we have elite and then we have covert elite. And these aren't like a bunch of Looney Tunes cartoon villains in some underground lair. These are CEOs and mega donors to political campaigns. And you notice how they donate to both sides? These are political lifers, media conglomerates. These are the people who cash big-ass checks no matter who wins the election. They operate on both sides of the aisle because the sides pay out. They don't care about your values. They don't care about your family or your future. They care about one thing, and that's control. And let me tell you, division is the cheapest, most effective tool ever invented for that. Look at how Psyops are described in military doctrine. You identify your target audience, you feed them carefully selected information, and you push their emotion until their behavior changes. This isn't theory. That's written down in black and white. And it's the same exact playbook that's being used on you. And me, my family, my parents, all of us. except this time the battlefield is in Afghanistan. It's not some country in the Middle East. It is your living room. It's your Twitter feed. It's your nightly news. It's right here where you're looking at my face, whatever device you're watching this on. This is the battlefield, and this is why both parties, you're hearing them scream about each other nonstop, but they never really seem to touch the things that matter. And you ever notice how there's always money for war, but there's never money to fix our roads? You notice how billionaires always seem to fund both sides of the elections. And if you've ever noticed, if you take a good look, corruption is a bipartisan issue. That's not incompetence. So whatever it is for the elites, they need you locked in this tribal, us versus them, tribalistic warfare. Because if you ever woke up and you started to realize that you share more in common with the other side than a single millionaire donor on your own side, the entire game starts to collapse instantly. And I think if you realize this, you'd stop fighting each other. You'd start realizing that the right versus left is fake. And I think that purely terrifies them. So who knows how long this video is going to last on YouTube, but let me be crystal clear about one thing. The real enemy isn't your Democrat neighbor with the yard sign that pisses you off. It's not your Republican uncle who posts stupid memes on Facebook. The real enemy is entrenched power. And it's an entrenched power that thrives on one piece of fuel. And that fuel is chaos. The real enemy is those people who profit when you are divided and distracted. And most importantly, when you are dehumanizing your fellow Americans. This was never about left versus right. It was always about the people versus the powerful. So here's the starting point. It's just sanity. Just plain, everyday, common sense sanity. And ask yourself, do you genuinely want political opponents murdered in the streets? Do you want your neighbor dragged through the mud because they voted differently? Of course you don't, because you're a sane human being. And that means that you're okay. And sanity right now is the most rebellious act that you can commit in this country for right now. Sanity is refusing to let CNN or Fox News or Twitter decide who your enemies are. It's looking across the aisle that's probably imaginary and saying, you know what? I disagree with your ass, but you're not the devil. Sanity is truly openly saying violence is not politics. Violence becomes the death of politics. And true sanity is seeing just the weird idiots on the news and realizing that's not the norm. That is a cartoon that's curated for you. And the second that you stop playing the outrage game and you refuse to cheer for blood, which I hope you didn't do, you're already breaking the spell if you're there. I genuinely believe in my heart that sanity is contagious. And when one person refuses to take the bait, the echo chamber starts cracking a little bit. 10 people refuse. It starts breaking open a little bit more. And let me be super clear here. When millions of people, if this were to happen or were to refuse, the machine will collapse. I guarantee it. We don't need permission to stop being pawns on the board. The minute that you decide right now that you will not be programmed into hatred, then you've started to win. And that's the first step to being sane. And it starts with you. Mr. Charlie Kirk, his death was a mirror for all of us. And it's a mirror showing us how that we have fallen. Because when we see murder being celebrated, when we see neighbors that are treated like enemies, that's the signal. And I think the good news here is that the machine only works if we feed it. It only runs on our clicks and our outrage and our willingness to see half of this country as a horrifying monster. If you starve this, it's going to die. It's as simple as that. Just think about your neighbors. Look at the people around you, your neighbors, your coworkers, the parents at your kids' school. Do they really look like these dipshits that you see on TV and on social media? Do they actually match these memes and all the screaming clips and stuff? Hell no. They look like you. They look like me. We're tired and overworked. We're worried about bills. We're praying for a future that isn't just bonkers, batshit crazy. That's the America that cameras don't show you. Because if they did, you'd stop hating people. You'd start seeing reality. So here is the pledge. Here's my one thing that I want to give to you here. And you can say this pledge out loud if you need to. I will not let anything electronic decide who my neighbor is. I will not let political violence become normal. I will no longer let propaganda tell me who to hate. I will never cheer for blood. I will choose sanity. I will choose unity. I will choose to see the humanity in people before I see their politics. And if enough of us take that stand, the whole entire rotten, nasty structure starts to fall. Because the truth is very simple. There are more sane people than there are psychopaths. What we're seeing online is fake. There are more of us than there are of them. And the second that we remember that, the second we refuse to be divided against each other, which is fake, the game is permanently over. And I say this as the brainwashing expert and the Psyops expert. The choice is absolutely ours. Right now, do we keep this programming? Do we keep going? Do we keep letting them program us into sociopaths? Because that's what's happening by just my previous video right before this one was about this. Or we break the script and take back our sanity and just finally remember that we are one people. We're not two tribes. And I want you to remember this. If something online pisses you off, now you know for sure that you are witnessing social engineering. That's all that is. And let me end this with a quote from Martin Luther King. The ultimate weakness of violence is that it is a descending spiral, begetting the very thing it seeks to destroy. Instead of diminishing evil, it multiplies it. Through violence, you may murder the liar, but you cannot murder the lie, nor establish the truth. Through violence, you may murder the hater, but you do not murder the hate. In fact, violence merely increases hate. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. I love you. Please, please, God, send this to somebody that you know. Take care.